This is Moneyline Mania with Jazz and the crew.
Your team is right now heading from Arkansas. What are you saying about that?
The horse races are a big part of Wes and I. I'm not sure about all the 151 sports people, but John from GMF Sports definitely. But for me, I grew up back there where you guys are. There's an OTB. You hang out at the OTB. We would hang out at the OTB, guys, use the door of the car for a strike zone, and we play wiffle ball for 14 hours at a time. We would go from betting the flats to betting the trotters, and the trotters are really where Wes's family was in the business, and that's, I think, where he gets his love.
I don't have any love when it comes to horses. I have gone to the Belmont. I was there a couple of years ago to watch a Triple Crown. In the end, they were cheating. How are you over there, Wes? How is it over there in Arkansas?
I got to tell you, it's great. It is a great vibe. The weather is great. Down in the infield is a totally different vibe. We spent a good amount of time in the dining room at a table, great lunch, friendly people. We're pandemic free. It's just a cool environment, cheering for the horses, and this is our second year doing it, and it is just an incredible time at the Derby.
Is that what we call it? Pandemic free now?
Even if it's not, there's a feeling of it. Yeah. Sports has this funny way of bringing it out, and the town of Hot Springs is just a great time, and it's approachably priced every year.
We're happy for you to join us. I know you're driving. I know you enjoyed your extravaganza over there in Arkansas. So, Speedy, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go.
The biggest rivalry in all of college basketball, now for the first time in the NCAA tournament. North Carolina against Duke.
I'm still sitting on that Villanova ticket, so I'm pretty giddy. Duke is shooting the ball well. March Madness, just because you've got a good bracket doesn't mean you have a good March Madness. You could do either way. I've been blessed this year to have both. I've had a good March Madness betting, and I've had a good bracket. I've got two different groups I'm in. I'm the only one with Villanova. My bracket has flames. ESPN put flames next to my bracket. I went up, catch this up, I went up 6 million spots. I was 8.8 million. Now I'm 2.1 million. I love the fact that you get to watch these 4 games so far. I think Duke's a better team. The way I'm betting it, remember, I came up with the name last week, the Moneyline Mania Special. I'm betting it, and this one I'm using a 3/4 of a unit. So the way I'm betting it is I'm going to win a unit if they win the game. I'm going to have 3/4 of that winnings on them giving the points. If they cover, I win them both. That happened last week.
You said that you moved up in your ESPN bracket. Well, my bracket has been dead on. Besides Baylor, I had Duke going to the Final Four, Kansas going to the Final Four, and I had Villanova going to the Final Four, and I had Villanova winning the whole tournament. If I was playing in any bracket, I'd be up very well. You were
ahead of me in my bracket only because you and I were the only two with Villanova.
Yeah.
But how much you got on them to win it 20-1? That's my question.
That's a good question. They lost a big player to an injury, but I said it. If Duke beats Arkansas, they're going to win this whole tournament. Going against North Carolina, this has never happened before. It's their nemesis. I would love to see Coach K knock off North Carolina. They lost their home game, the final home game in Coach K's career. I expect Duke to not just beat them. I say Duke beats them by double digits in this game. Come out strong. They're going to try to knock them off quick. This is not the Peacocks, what North Carolina did to them last Sunday. I think Duke's going to come out strong. I think they're going to come up powerful. They're going to hit a lot of shots early. They're going to make sure that Coach K can move to the national championship and possibly win the whole thing.
You got to give credit where it's due, because you called Nova before this tournament started.
Yes.
I was anti-Nova. I remember the conversation. I said that would be very Nova of them to show up in this tournament, because they didn't show much in regular season Big East. Providence was the class of the Big East. I thought St. John's looked better than Nova at times, so credit to you for playing Nova with conviction. As far as Duke, North Carolina, this one I struggle with playing the winner. Part of me agrees with you, but the other part of me thinks what North Carolina did to them cannot be a coincidence. You don't just show up and manhandle a team like that and do it by having the wrong approach or the wrong game plan. So my play on this actually has nothing to do with the winner. The spread right now is 4.5. The only thing on this game that I am going into it with is I'm taking under 76 game total for the first half. I'm going to go into this with a unit management strategy. I'm going into this for a half a unit. And if that game total goes up to, say, 77 for the first half, I'll nibble on it again for 0.25. I'm just going to tiptoe into this game because I'm nervous of what North Carolina is capable of doing to Duke. I agree with you on Coach K and the storybook and everything else, but North Carolina did it. Duke is the one that's got to prove it here. A lot of pressure there. So I'm going under 76. Half one game total.
I'm a Duke fan. I want to see Duke win the whole thing. I want to see Coach ride off into the sunset. All the great ones have done it. Peyton Manning did it. John Elway really did it at the end of his career. And Tom Brady looked like he was going to do it before he retires and comes back. So I think all the greats, you want to see them end up on top, at least close to the end of their career. This is Coach K's opportunity to really set him from everybody else. I think he's the greatest college coach of all time, arguably one of the greatest coaches in all of sports. I would love to see him get over the hump and knock off North. If they beat North Carolina, even with Villanova, and I have Villanova winning, I cannot see Duke losing a championship game against either Kansas or Villanova. I say Duke wins the whole thing.
The stage is set. I mean, this is as storybook as it gets in sports history. When you look at the names that are remaining, I mean, you could probably pick a couple other names that are equally as significant in college basketball, but I don't know that there's a Final Four that has more significant names to the history of the sport in just the last decade or so than these four names.
Well, you look at the numbers for Final Four appearances for national championships. I got to give prop swap shout-outs. Wes, did that work like I called it, or how did that work?
It looked like it worked out pretty well on what John had done. Didn't work out so well for some of those other guys that posted we were. But it typically always works out for John from GMF Sports. He's that kind of guy.
Prop swap allows you to sell a paper ticket. So what I did is I got 2 tickets for Villanova, and I kept one for me, and I sold one. So I bet $60. I got $80 back. If you are ever betting future bets, you have to check out Prop Swap. Totally cool to know that no matter what happened with Villanova going into today, I was a winner for the tournament. That's a pretty cool thing.
We were not surprised that the Peacocks coach goes to Seton Hall, his home place where he played basketball. So I'm very happy. The Peacocks were a sensational story throughout the tournament. They played a very good North Carolina team. They got into these spurts where they couldn't hit a shot.
What a raise did he get? Holy cow.
Yeah, he made a lot of money.
Wes, I know you were excited about this particular NHL play. It'll begin right after our show. The St. Louis Blues at the Calgary Flames.
You guys know my system. You know how I feel about these NHL games. When a team is playing 2 nights in a row and the second night is on the road. But more so what I'm looking at with this game, I'm a Blackhawks fan, so there is no secret that I don't care very much for the St. Louis Blues. But that aside, St. Louis last night really struggled to get shots on goal. They're going to go into Calgary later on tonight, and they're going to play against a team that, believe it or not, Calgary is allowing the second least amount of goals in the entire NHL, and Calgary has no problem scoring. Last night, the Blues allowed 4 goals. Binnington, their better goalie, was actually the one that allowed goals. They played 2 different goalies and lost. The Blues got some things to figure out. We're in a wild era with goalies in general, and we are just at such a horrible deficit for great goaltending. But I like Calgary. I like the money line, a little bit of sprinkling to be had in laying the 1.5. For sure, I like Calgary money line. And if you want to find real value there, let the puck drop, wait 3 minutes in, and take Calgary money line regulation. And that way you don't have to lay as much juice.
It takes me longer to look at a horse race than it does to look at a game. I can look at a game pretty quick. So what I did is I looked at this game and I said, look, they're over. I'm betting the over. These games are all going over. Friday, they went over like before halftime. Now there's no halftime in a hockey game. But what I'm saying is you take the 20 minutes times 3, divide it in half, that's 30. They were over for the game. When a game goes over in the second period of a hockey game, how cool it is. You could give time to your girlfriend. You could play with your puppy. You could do all kinds of things because you've already cashed.
Could you stop bringing about the puppy? I mean, you got a puppy over there you're watching, you're taking care of for your son.
He's so
What kind of dog is
It's
it?
a half
A little
poodle,
one.
half something.
A little tiny one.
A little tiny one.
So I like the over.
Second of the hockey games, the Vegas Golden Knights at the Vancouver Canucks on Sunday.
This is where we're going to beneficiaries of poor goaltending. The odds makers have made adjustments. Almost every single game we see now is 6 and 6.5 game total. Vegas is completely depleted as far as roster. All of their major goal scorers are injured. Vegas doesn't allow a ton of goals, but they also don't resemble the Vegas Golden Knights in performance or their roster. They're going to Vancouver. I have a hard time betting on Vancouver just because they don't have much left to play for. Vegas has a little bit to fight for, but they don't have a team in which to fight for it. I'm taking the under 6.5. The goalie play is poor on both sides, but I don't think either team has enough goal scorers. So I'm going under 6.5 for the game, and let's go defense.
I'm not looking at Sunday. I'm betting the horses all day. Once you got done with the horses, the first thing you do is you got to wash your hands because the daily racing form gets you a lot of ink. The next thing you do is you go and make yourself another cocktail because you're drinking all day. So I'm not worried about Sunday, but I'm looking at the other late game, the very last game on the board Saturday night, Dallas at San Jose, and I'm going with a money line mania special. I'm taking Dallas. I'm taking them on the money line. And then I'm going a half a unit, and I'm going to give the 1.5 half a unit. Also, I'm taking the team total over. They score a lot of goals. I could win all 3 bets. And when you win 3 bets in one game, it's not as good as 6 bets, and we've done that before. But 3 bets in a game is pretty good.
Last of the NHL games, the Minnesota Wild at the Washington Capitals.
I think Minnesota will win this game. Washington has been falling apart in the second half of the season. Their goaltending is questionable. I think their defense, which has been their strong point from the last 5 years, even since Barry Trotz has been their strongest part, well, their defense has not been at its strength all season long, especially in the second half. I like Minnesota scoring at least 3 goals in this game and winning at least by 2. So give me Minnesota on that game.
It's hard to argue that Minnesota is the better team. And you make a good point about Washington falling apart. I'm looking at this past week and how Minnesota has played and the amount of games that they've played. Washington, they still got number 8. As long as he's on that roster, I won't count him out. Now, I'm not saying Washington wins the game, but I do like Washington plus 1.5 goals. I think that they'll keep it close enough. There may be a lot of goals in this game. I think that you could be onto something there. I think Washington has a shot in this spot. I think you're spot on about Minnesota. Washington is one of those fringe teams, and here in the next 2 or 3 weeks to close out the season, they're going to be one of those teams that I give a look at almost every time I look at an NHL card, because most of these teams are landlocked at this point in the standings, whether it's the 2 position versus the 3 position. Most of these teams that are in, and the teams that are out. And Washington has an opportunity to either miss the playoffs or make the playoffs. So I can trust them with my investment better than most. So I'm taking the 1.5 on Washington. If Minnesota scores early, that's going to be a good opportunity for live action to maybe take 2.5 or even 2. I'm going with the Caps on this one.
Minnesota's playing Saturday at Carolina. Then they're coming back Sunday. It really kind of depends on when they score early. I don't know. If I get down early to a team that I think is the better team, I'm not necessarily going to take that bump that Wes will do on the dip because I move on with my life. I'm not afraid of that because if you ask Wes, what's the most amount of bets he's lost on a game, probably going to take 2 hands to count them.
I typically don't allow myself to lose more than 3, but I think Chaz is probably referencing a pretty ugly memory that was a one-off I'd rather not get into.
We all have them, guys.
Some NBA plays for Sunday. Mavericks at the Bucks.
I got the Bucks in this game. You saw what the Bucks did against the Nets. They went to overtime, and they shut down Kevin Durant in the overtime. I think the Greek Freak has played as well as he has in the second half. You see this team, a completely different team. I think Milwaukee wins this game. I think Milwaukee wins double digits in this game.
So my play on this game, I don't want to play the game of teams. I'm actually looking at sometimes it takes Milwaukee going down in order to claw their way back up and actually cover these big spreads that they have to lay. So my play on this game, I'm going over 57.5, quarter 2.
Yeah, I watched that game. My son's a big hoops fan. When I sat down, the Nets were up by 9. There's like 3 or 4 minutes left in the game. They just collapsed. They collapsed, and then, of course, they lost. But he's such a great player. I'm going with Wes is lean on this, but I'm taking it for all of it. I'll have over for the first quarter, over for the second quarter, over for the first half, over for the game. I just bet overs. I just keep betting overs.
You love those overs, Chaz.
Well, I only love them when I think they can win, and then that's a dip. Wes's dips are right on. But in the basketball game, that's what I like to do. I like to see if I can get it 7-8 minutes into the first, and they're just struggling to score, and the line will drop. The problem is, guys, in live action, they don't drop the line that quickly. So what'll happen is it'll only go down 222 to 220 or 219 when it should be really 199. So then you're kind of tight. But that's what I like. I like points.
You're going to pick a winner. Milwaukee beats Dallas. It doesn't matter if they were in Milwaukee. It doesn't matter if they're in Dallas. The way Milwaukee is playing right now, they're playing dominant basketball. So give me Milwaukee in the game.
All right, next one is the 76ers at the Cavaliers.
Don't overthink it. The Sixers by double digits. Lay the points, take the Sixers. Don't overthink it. Enough said. I'm not even going to give reasoning. You don't need it. The Sixers are better. They outclass the Cavs.